Record. Great. So if you could drop a message on the chat just to confirm you can see, or just give me a thumbs up just to confirm you can see my slide that says opportunity for value and has a picture of me. This is my finest picture. That's why I had to choose it. So if you can see that, just maybe thumbs up or a chat message. Great. Okay. Yeah, I can see a message on the chat group. So I assume we're good to go. I can see your slide. Perfect then. Great. All right. Welcome everybody to this session, and it's a free session. It's a DIY. It's supposed to be an opportunity for you to do it yourself. And this is an opportunity for permanent residents in Australia, and due to popular demand, I have to extend the scope of this discussion to not just valuers. Because a lot of people send me message that is it just for valuers? Is it just for people that study estate management? Well, the answer is the opportunities for in Australia is not for only valuers. There's permanent residence opportunities for a lot of professionals. But then, because I am a valuer and I've gone through the process as well, so I thought to use valuer as a case study, sort of. So a lot of my remarks would be using valuer valuation surveyors, graduate of estate management as a case study. But then the process is the same thing. It's just as long as you have the job experience or slash and a relevant degree. I'll come to explain that in a minute. So as long as you have that in one of the occupations that are in demand, you can start the process. And just to mention, because you are going as a valuer in this instance, doesn't mean when you get to Australia, when you have your permanent residence, you have to do valuation. It doesn't mean that you can do anything you want. You can decide to just maybe you had enough money, just want to be chilling. You can decide to do that, or you can decide that you want to change profession. You can do anything. If you go as a teacher, as a PR, it doesn't mean you have to teach. You can decide you want to go into a different profession. So that's just a bit of an introduction. And without wasting much time, we'll go on to the next slide, which is a bit of an overview. So this is what you talk. I'll just talk you through. So at the end of this session, you should be able to know everything you need to know about the Australian permanent residence process, and you can kickstart the process yourself, either as a valuer or any other occupation that's on the occupation list, which I'll show you in a minute. So I'll just run you through the introduction. I'll talk to you about what the different visa subclasses are for permanent residents. I'll also tell you the processes. And then in all of this, I'll try to, although I have to confess, I didn't do a lot of homework for to get the current prices. But I'll try to give you the costs for each process along the way. I'll try to give you course along each process along the way. And then I'll also talk to you about the IELTS, the English language requirements, and what you need to meet for that. And then I'll also talk to you about the skill assessment. And then the bit of the last process is submitting an EOI. That's you joining the pool. It's called expression of interest. And then also you getting an ITA, which is invitation to apply. And then the last process, which is your visa application. So this session should take you through all of this. And at the end of this, you should be a mastermind in Australian permanent resident because um, I've done my bit of research. As I said earlier, I have gone through the process. That's why I am also giving back. I am sharing because a lot of people say, "Oh, do you know any agent that can help me do that?" Personally, a lot of my friends know when I hear agents, it puts me off. I rather go through the trouble of understanding it myself and doing it myself. So that was my story for the Australian permanent residence. It's a lot of to take in, even though we can't cover everything, but everything we'll do today it's enough to give you total understanding of it. But then, so I've done the hard work, I've done all the research, I've done the process, I've gone through the process myself. So that's why I believe everything I'm sharing today, you should be able to understand. And then if at any point during this presentation, if you have any question at any point, because I'm sharing my screen, I can't see the chat box. Well, let me see if I can open it on my phone as well. See if I can open it on my phone so I could see the chat box on my phone. But I just don't want the sound to interrupt. Oh, But then if you're at any point you have a question, please come off mute and interrupt me at any point so that I don't lose my thought process. So just come off mute and ask a question. Because if you drop it on the chat box, I might not see it. But then I'll try to make the session interactive. So there are points where I'll ask questions so we can drop that on the chat box. I'll have to leave and then check the chat box. But then if you have any question while I'm talking, please feel free to interrupt me. Just ask a question and I'll answer you. Just want to see if I could open this on my phone as well. Oh, great. So good news. So I have it. I have the chat box open on my phone. So that means I can see your messages on the chat. Let me just drop hello. So I can see your messages on the chat. So if you have any question, either come off mute or you drop it on the chat box and I should be able to see it now. So a bit of an introduction. As I said, this is sort of like a case study for valuers. So forgive me for those that are not valuers. It's I'm a bit selfish here, but then it's the process. As I said earlier, the process is the same thing, and the income as well for other professionals as well. As I said, as in Australia, it's a lot better than where like some countries like the UK. And now the average income of a valuation survey of a valuer in Australia is 80,000 per annum. As I said, this is average. I mean, there are people that earn far more than this. They're far more than this. I mean, people earn 120,000 that I'm aware of. And the good news is some people get these jobs with their experience from, I believe a lot of people here are Nigerians, although I know somebody said there are some other African students that were joining this session. But then, so please forgive me. I'll make a lot of case. I'll make a lot of reference to Nigeria because I think the vast majority of people listening are Nigerians. So with your broad experience, you can actually get these valuation jobs. As I said, you must not do valuation. You mustn't be a valuer if you have your permanent residence. You can decide to do anything. You can go into IT. You can decide you just want to be chilling in the beach. And so, but I'm just going to talk to you through you as if you decide to go through. You decide to be a valuer. So, and another thing is once you get to Australia, the just like you have RICS for those that are into valuation, you know what I mean. The status for it to practice in Australia is called CPV, Certified Practicing Valuer. So, for one of the advantage you have as a valuer with years of experience is that normally to get that status, you need 2 years of job experience. But then if you have more than 12 months experience from overseas, from anywhere, from America, from UK, from Nigeria, from Kenya, from South Africa, the API, which is the Australian Property Institute, will knock off 1 year for you. So instead of going through that 2 years route to get that CPV status, you only need to do it, go through and have an experience in Australia for 1 year, and then you sit for your interview, and then you get your CPV status. And now with that CPV status, your salary goes from here to pew. So it is a major increase in your salary because you are now a certified practicing valuer. You could be earning as much as 150, 160 or thereabouts. So these are average. These are just statistics that I checked. So going into the process itself now talk starts. So the first thing is to been a bit tired of myself. The first thing to look out for is the occupation list. You can see the link here. I've dropped the link, and I'm going to if I drop this recording on my YouTube, I'll put this link as well in the on the post, in the description post. So the first thing for regardless of your occupation, the first thing you want to look at is did I hear somebody? The first thing you want to look out for starting the process is to check the occupation list to see if is there any occupation that I can, in quotes, nominate. That's the word. You are nominating an occupation. You're saying, hey, look, this is the experience I have. This is the educational background I have for this occupation. So I want to nominate this occupation. I want to come to Australia as a professional for this role. Remember, I'll keep saying it. You must not do that role once you get your PR. PR is a permanent residence. You can live indefinitely. You can do whatever you want with it. So I just have to keep reiterating that. As I said, you're nominating this occupation. So you're going through this. So they believe when they give you that PR, you're coming to add value to their economy. So I'm going to quickly share the, I believe you can still see my screen. So this is, I'll also drop the link on the video post afterward. So this is what the occupation list looks like. You remember that link you just saw on my screen. So when you click the link, this is where it takes you to. So this is the first step, is to go to your occupation, the skill occupation list, and see which occupation is on this list too that I fit in and I can nominate. That's the word. So there are loads of occupation on the list. You can see accountants, you can see an actor.
That's not the list.
Someone asked me a question. Go on, please. I thought I heard someone asking a question. Okay, if that's an error, please remember to mute your mic so we don't have interruptions. But if you have any question, feel free to come off mute and ask the question or drop it in the chat box. I have my chat box open on my phone so I could look at it. So there are a lot of occupations, a lot of them that you could go through. So it just depends on what the requirement for that occupation is and if you meet the requirement. So because there's a lot of them, it's pilots. That is what I wanted to become when I was younger. What do you want to be when you grow up? Pilot. So there's a lot of occupation, a lot of them. And if you could drop on the chat box, you could drop what you are thinking right now. But for because of this session, because a lot of us are valuers, but you could drop anything, you could look at it as well. Because a lot of us, I believe majority of people that came to this session were based on valuation. So we're going to use the search box. So we're going to search for valuer. So search, you can see now, so it comes with the occupation valuer and then the ANSCO code. And this is the Australian and New Zealand skill classification of occupation. That's what this means. So this is how they classify it. So I'll explain that properly because we'll click this link to see more details about the occupation. And now, so these are the visa that this occupation is qualified for. As I said, we'll probably still go back and look for other occupations as well. But then, so these are the visas that this occupation is qualified for. It's qualified for the 186 visa, which is an employer nominated visa. That's when an employer gives you a job from whatever you hand and they can sponsor you to come over. But then for the purpose of this discussion, for the purpose of permanent residence, we're going to be focusing on 3 visas and I'll go into all their details bit by bit. The first one is the 189 skill independent visa. It's point tested. So just put that in the back of your mind. Don't worry about the details. We'll go into it shortly. So the first one, as I said, is 189. And the second one is 190, which is skilled nominated. Underline that word, nominated. And then the third one is the 491 visa, which is a skilled work regional visa. So it's a state or a regional nominated. Oh, and there's a fourth one. If you have a family in Australia, you have a brother, you have a wife, if you have a family, they can actually sponsor you. I forgot to add that. That's another. But it's pretty much the same code 491. It's pretty much the same process. Instead of the region now nominating you, that family can nominate you. So as I said, if you are in Australia already, you can bring in your brother, you can bring in your sister as well. You can nominate them for permanent residence. So those are the 4 major visa subclasses that we'll be focusing on. So remember, you have to, regardless of your occupation, the first step is to check because not all occupation will have this. Not all of them will have all the 4 visa subclasses we just mentioned. I'll look at an example shortly, and then the next thing to look at is which body assesses this assesses this occupation. Now, for valuer, it is called vet assess. I'll go into all the details as we proceed. So those are the things to look out for when you look at the occupation list. So now let's quickly look at this ANSCO code and see what they are saying about this occupation. So it's also known as land economics and valuer. So these are the jobs that you're expected to have done for you to get a positive assessment from vet assess, qualifying you as a valuer. So what does this mean? It means you should have been doing this job. And then in the process of your application, which we'll still go into details when we're looking at the skill assessment, you're going to submit your CV. So ordinarily, your CV should be able to demonstrate that you've done these jobs. So what I would tell people is just come here, copy and edit, just paraphrase, put this on your CV. But remember, this is not the only thing that will give you a positive assessment. I'll get into all the details shortly. Now, another thing to point out here is the skill level. This is a skill level 1, or it's also known as grade A in some mentions, like on the on VETASES page, you see it's labeled as grade A or skill level 1. So let me just mention because of other occupations as well. So what does that mean? If the occupation you are going for is a skill level 1 or a grade A occupation, you can only assess that occupation as either one of, as I said, I'm picking as a Nigerian now. Now, there are 4 schools in Nigeria, 4 universities in Nigeria that can assess a skill level 1 occupation. But don't worry, that's not all bad news. I'll give you the way around it as well. So if I don't know why it's still like that, perhaps the system has not been updated. Only 4 schools are recognized as being at the level of skill level 1 occupation. So that's UNILAG, UI, OAU, and FUTA. So if you have evaluation, a essay management degree from one of those 4 schools, you can assess a skill level 1 or a grade A occupation. UNILAG, UI, OAU, and FUTA, regardless of the length of your study. But now let me give you news. Personally, I didn't attend any of those schools. I went to UNN. So what is the exemption? The exemption is either you go to one of those 4 schools or your degree is 5 years. So I did estate management in UNN and it was a 5 years course. So that's how I was able to assess a skill level 1 occupation or a grade A occupation. So regardless of the occupation, you have to look at that skill level. What is it? If it's a skill level 2, then you can assess it regardless of if you didn't go to any of those schools, you have a 4 years degree, you can assess it, or a grade B. So I believe I've been able to explain this properly. If not, please feel free to come off mute, ask a question, or drop it on the chat box, depends on which one. Is there any particular? Someone else says, is there any particular format for the CV? No, there's no particular format. You can even use your Nigerian CV. Just, but I'll recommend maybe go to there's an app I always use to edit CV. It's called Canva. You can go there, just make sure it's properly arranged. So there's no particular format. But I'll go into all the details. As I said, your CV is not the main thing they will use to give you a positive assessment because anybody can have a CV, anybody can edit a CV. So I'll go into the details when we get to the skill assessment part of this presentation. So that's for valuer. I don't want to click this because I'll talk about it. If you remember in the first summary of this session, there's a place where you see skill assessment. So I'll go into that when we get to that bit of the presentation. So let me search. Nobody dropped the occupation. So let me just look for an occupation. Let me look for customer service manager. So if you've done customer service job before, maybe you've worked for Glow, you've worked for. I'm doing this for the purpose of those that are not valuers that are on this session as well. So if you have experience as a customer service manager, sorry guys, I just thought of something. Since I'm here, I might as well just talk about the VETASES thing since I'm on the valuer. Sorry guys, just a minute. So since we are here, let me just I'm working around my format now. So let me just talk about the VETASES. So I'll bring out the VETASES. I also drop this link on the page as well, on my page as well. So you could see if you click this link and you go to valuer. So what are the requirements to get a positive assessment as a valuer? So you can see again, is it a skill level 1 or a group A? So these occupations are called, this occupation, value now is a group A occupation. So It's high class. Yeah, that's the word. So you are expected to have a comparable degree, which is what I just mentioned, either one of those four schools or a 5 years degree from any school in Nigeria. And then your field of study has to be highly relevant. Now, when I say highly relevant, because when you submit your application, you also submit your transcript as well. For the sake of confirmation, the school should send it to them directly. I can go into the details for that another time, sharp. But so that's it. So it has to be highly relevant. So if you're submitting your CV as a valuer and you study estate management, now your transcript should show that you've done some valuation courses as well, like um, plant and machinery evaluation, principles of valuation, valuation methodologies and all. So it has to be in your transcript. So that is what it has to be highly relevant. And then there's no other requirement, like all those naives and S-Verbond, you don't need all of that. And then relevant employment duration. You have to have a minimum of 1 year minimum experience. Now, remember, if you have a very keen attention to details, you see in my advert, in my posts for this session, come on, it says what I wrote on my post was, do you have a 2 years experience in property management? I'm trying to look for my post. Come on, go back. Now, if you have good attention, you would have noticed I wrote 2 years here. Now, how does that contradict this requirement for 1 year that is on the vet access page? Trying to bring out where has it gone now? Trying to bring up the vet access page again. Come on. Yeah, that's it. So why did I say you need 2 years? Because as I said, this is something I've gone through before. So I'm speaking from my personal experience, which is very accurate. Now, vet access will say you need a period of 1 year of working experience to qualify first. So now your first 1 year of working with that company is ignored. So they will see it as 1 year that you took to train, and then you now become a valuer. So they will now recognize the 1 year after that. That's why I say you need a minimum of 2 years experience. Because, for example, now if you've been working with that company for, let's say, 5 years and you submit an application, what VetAccess does is they will knock off 1 year. They will now say you've been a valuer for 4 years. So that's like, so if you have only 1 year experience and you submit an application, they would your money don't go law because they will assume you're not yet qualified to be a valuer. But now here's the flip side about it. Like I said, this is from my experience. Even if Vet Access removes that 1 year, because we'll go into all the details about point calculation. If the Vet Access removes that 1 year, during your visa application, you can put that 1 year back. And this has been verified. It's a lot of research went into this too, because I had to go to the visa requirements for each caseworker that approves visas, and then they look at these cases from their own eye, regardless of what Vet Access has said, the number of years Vet Access approved. They look at it. So if you can prove that even that 1 year that Vet Access deducted, you actually work as a valuer, they will give it to you. Because trust me, you need all the years you can. Because the higher your years, the more your points. So that's about it for this. So I'll drop this link to this document on the page as well, so you could look at. So it just tells you about other relevant qualifications. There's a message on the group says, "Good morning. Is it compulsory to be a registered valuer to access this opportunity for the working experience? Is the experience from Nigeria valid?" Yes. I've mentioned this before. I think maybe you joined late. You must not be a registered valuer. You must not be registered with, I think you mean naives and S-Verbond. If you look at the requirement for getting a positive assessment, it's not, no, you don't need a relevant qualification. You don't need all those things. All you need is a degree, either from one of those four universities I mentioned, either from OAU, UI, FUTA, or what was the last one now? Yeah, that's keep my head. But I mentioned it earlier. If anybody can remember, please type it on the chat group. Either one of those four, or you have a 5 years degree from any school at all. So you now meet a comparable bachelor's degree, and then it has to be relevant to valuation. It has to be like estate management, land economics, depends on what your school calls it. But in your transcript, you have valuation courses there. And then also you have a minimum of 1 year experience. So that's about it. And for the working experience, yes, working experience from Nigeria is valid. I mentioned that as well. The API will take 1 year from your experience. Please, can we all mute our microphone? Yeah, thank you. OAU, Unilag, UI, and Footer. Thank you very much. Someone is listening properly. Thank you very much, Samuel. So that's about it. I think I'm dwelling so much on this. It might not all make sense now, but it will eventually. As I said, I jumped my slide just since I was on that discussion. I wanted to just talk about this briefly. But then now, so let me go back to where we were on the skill list. Messed up on my slide. So yeah, we were looking at value. So I was going to make another example of customer service manager. So let's assume you have experience as a customer service manager. So what are your requirements? But I won't go into all details because of time. But it's, as I said, it's basically the same process. But now for this now, you can see that it's only the 190 and the 491 visas that this occupation is eligible for. The occupation is not eligible for 189 visa. So you can click the link and then see all the details. So you can see a call or contact center customer service manager. For example, I know somebody here that works with Lloyd, is it Lloyd Bank or Barclays Bank, and she's a call rep rep. So with that job experience, and you can see it's a skill level 2. So with your degree anyway, you can access this occupation. So with that job experience, you can access this occupation. But then now, what is the requirement for this customer service manager? Now, if you go through VetAccess website and you look for customer service manager, you then see the requirements. I'll just bring it up on my screen because I think I've yeah. So this is it. You can see. So you have to go through this page, look at it thoroughly. These are the conditions to get a positive assessment. So remember, just unlike Valua, because Valua is a grade A occupation, because this is actually a group C, so you can assess it. And if you have attention to details, again, I'm always mentioning that word because you see that to get a positive assessment for Valua, there was only one. Remember, there was only, so it's very strict. There was only this condition: a minimum comparable, a highly relevant study, and then a minimum of 1 year employment. But then there are some other occupations that have they are quite flexible. So this is an example now. Now, before I go on, let me just mention, I'm sure a lot of people that study estate management, they also have experience in property management. They also have experience in facility management. Now, those are also available. Maybe I'll just show you on the occupation list as well when I'm done with this. So there are other pathways to go as a graduate of estate management that you can use. So, so now still on this customer service manager, you could see that if you don't even have a degree that is related to customer service, yeah, you can go on because now there are conditions, there are other criteria you have to meet. If you have a degree that's no, not relevant, a BSc or a diploma, that will fly. And then this one says if you have a minimum of a certificate and a minimum of 1 year experience, you can apply and you get a positive assessment. Now, there's another condition again that says once you have a degree and then you have a minimum of 2 years experience, you get a positive assessment. So these are just the basic conditions, the criteria for you to get a positive assessment. But because of time, I wouldn't want to. But I believe this should be clear enough. Um, come on, what's happening to my slide? I believe this is clear enough. So I'd go on to, where was I on my slide? Oh, no, yeah. I see someone is staring down at us. So let's go back to my slide. So that's for the occupation list. I spent so much time on the occupation list, but then, yeah, I believe it's clear enough. So now let's talk about points. Now, this is it's a skill visa. It's point tested. You need points. You need a minimum of 65 points to join that pool. If you do not have 65 points, your EOI will not be considered. Before we calculate this point, let me just go one step further to talk about the different subclasses. If you remember very well, when we were on the skill occupation list, I said we need to focus on three visas: 189, 190, and then 491. 491 is either regional sponsored or family sponsored. So if you have a brother or a sister in Australia, they can sponsor you, they can bring you over. Sorry, somebody just said, I would love to see the link after so we can start the process. Okay, yeah, I'll send the link when I drop the video. I'll also send the link on this chat. If you can just keep this chat open, I'll drop the links on this chat group. And someone said, "Can I get the recording?" Yes, yes, I'll upload this. I'm recording the meeting. So when I'm done, I'll upload it on my YouTube page and I'll send the link here as well so you can access it as well. So let me just talk about this. Remember, I mentioned the different visas that are eligible as a valuer. Now, also, like we look at another example for a customer service manager, and we could see that it was only 190 and 491 visa that were eligible. So what are the differences? Because a lot of people say, which one is this one again? I'm confused. So now we're going to look at what are the differences in those visa subclasses. So now in terms of permanent residence, for the 189 visa, it's permanent residence. It is indefinitely. You can stay and live anywhere indefinitely. The same thing with the 190. The 190 is a state nominated. Now they have different states. They have Queensland. Australia is divided into about 7 or 6 regions. I don't have it in my head right now. States. So now they have Queensland. They have New South Wales. They have ACT. There's Northern Territory. There's Southern Australia. There's Victoria. There's Western Australia. Yeah. So either of those places can sponsor you to get your. Then you now use that sponsorship to apply for the 190 visa. We'll get into all the details shortly. And then 491 is a regional visa. It's so 190 is also a permanent residence, but then 491 is a temporary visa, but it also leads to permanent residence. So it's a 5 years temporary visa, but after 4 years, you have your pathway to also get your PR. Um, Also, 189, you can live anywhere, as I said. But then for 190, you have to live in that region, those states that I mentioned now. Sorry, I'm always confusing state and region. States, those states, New South Wales, Queensland, either of them, you have to live there for 2 years because now then carry you come now. So you have to give them what belongs to them first. Afterwards, you can then move. And then for 491, it's a regional visa, remember, it's a region. But there are some regions that, I mean, not even some. The regions are also very great. I mean, there's Perth, there's Newcastle, there's Adelaide. You can stay in all those areas, but you cannot stay in the major cities like Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane. That doesn't mean you can't visit. You can visit, but you cannot stay there. You can't live there. But then once you've transited to PR, you can then move on to if you want to go to these big cities. Now, all of them have full working rights. You can work anywhere with anybody you want with all the three of them. For the 189 visa, which is the federal sponsored one, is points tested. So you do not get an extra point. You get 0 point. I wanted to talk about this before we now calculate our point. I said, let me jump forward first. I'm sure my slide is very upset with me because I'm just ignoring it. But then I think it makes sense this way. So for 189, you do not get an extra point, no extra point at all whatsoever. But then for the 190 visa, you get a five if a state nominates you, which I'll go into details as well as we proceed, you get 5 points extra. So whatever you get for 189 visa plus 5 for the 190 visa. And then for 491, whatever you get for 189 is plus 15. If a region sponsors you, you get an extra 15 points. As I said, the minimum points you need is 65. So imagine if you have 65 as a minimum and then plus 15. That's a bit massive. That's that 80 or 90. I don't know, but you get the drift. So For the 189 visa, after 4 years in Australia, you can apply for citizenship and you get your passport. The same thing with 190. After 4 years, you get your passport and then you become a citizen. But then for the 491, as I say, you have to do 4 years first, and then you now move after 4 years of on being on the temporary visa. You can then move on to a PRA 191 visa, and then eventually apply for your citizenship. So now that we've broken down these three different subclasses, the 189, the 190, and the 491. Now let's go back now to calculate our points. Yeah. So quickly, this will just be a bit interactive. Because I want to make sure I'm not talking to myself. Let's calculate our points together. So let's say I want everybody to put down their total in the end. So let's say the first thing is there's also a link to calculate this automatically. I'll share that link as well on our in short, when we are done calculating, but I'll show you the link and then I'll share it as well. So for your age, let's say you are 26, you have 30 points. You please go on with me as well. Also, let's do this. You can bring out a pen and paper or calculate on your phone. Can calculate. Depends on your situation. No, remember I mentioned in my advert, I said you can't if you are above 45. Unfortunately, you're not qualified for a permanent residence. So none of this discussion is applicable if you are above 45. You can see you have this. It stops at 44. But then there are other pathways like the employer-sponsored visa. So you can, if you are above 45, you can consider those options. So let's go on now to calculate our point. Let's say if you're 32 or if you're 33, I'm just using that as an example, spot, or use your own example. So remember, regardless of your occupation, just work is the same process regardless of the occupation, even though we're talking about valuers here. So if you're 30, 34 or 33, you get 25 points. So put that one place, 25. And then if you're, remember what I said about them cutting your years of experience, you see why it is important to claim all the points, even though if your assessing body reduces your points, you take it back because if you fall 1 year, imagine if you had 5 years experience and then they cut out 1 year, they now take you to 4. So you've lost out 5 points. So but then anything above 5 years is 10 points. So let's assume you have 6 years of experience as a valuer. So give yourself 10 points. Now your degree, unlike some countries, Australia no send masters, so masters and bachelor, the same 15 points not only. So let's say you have a BSc degree, you get 15 points. So give yourself 15 points. If you have a BSc, if you have a diploma, 10 points. So in English language now, partner, for example, so if your partner, if you have a wife or a partner, as I said, I remember the word partner. Yeah, as in these instances, even in the UK and some other countries, you don't have to be married to be part to go to chapter together. So let's say but I'll come to, if you are single, then we'll get to that point. If you're not married, that's here. Just but if you have a partner, if your partner has competent English, I'll explain this English criteria shortly. But for now, just bear with me and swallow what I tell you. Let's assume your partner has a competent English. Give yourself a 5 points. Now, if your partner has both competent English and if your partner has a skill on that occupation list that we've checked, remember that list we checked? Your partner has one occupation there and then they meet the criteria and they get a positive assessment, that is 10 points. So that means they have both competent English and they've identified one occupation on that list and gone through the skill assessment and then they got the positive assessment. So that is 10 points. If your partner is an Australian citizen or a permanent resident, that's 10%. So now let's be minimal. Let's assume our partner has a competent English. So let's give ourselves 5 points for that. But if you're single, no problem. We're coming there if you're single. Now, in terms of the English skill, I said I'll explain all this breakdown to you, what it is for each of the type of English. So now let's be minimal. Let's assume we get proficient English, which is 10 points. Give yourself 10 points. And this, if you don't have any degree in Australia, this is not applicable. So I'll just assume nobody has any points here. Now, for those that are single, you can see you even have more points than those that have partners. So if you're single, give yourself 10 points. Now we'll ignore this, but I want to explain this. I mentioned it in the first slide, in the slide I had to go to talk about the different visas first. So remember, if you notice 189 is not mentioned here, but on the 189 visa, which I said on this slide, remember, I mentioned it on this slide. So applicant does not get an extra additional point. So let's assume we're working on with the 189 visa. So with the 189 visa, you do not get an extra point. So once you calculated everything, that is your point. But then if you're able to get a state nomination, you get an extra 5 points. So now let's be minimal. Let's assume we don't have a nomination from any state. Now, how many points did you get after doing all of this? Please just drop it on the chat box. Let's see where we are. And as long as you get a minimum of 65. But the more your points, the better your chances. The more your points. So someone got 70. Oh, good. Someone got 70. And so now if you see that 70, now if you're able to get a state nomination, that would be, what if you have a BSc and MSc? Now, good question. If you have a BSc and an MSc, it is preferably you use the one which after you now have a relevant job experience. For example, you have a BSc in estate management, and then after that, you have 5 years experience after that, and then you now did after that 5 years, you now did a master's degree, which you don't have any. After the master's, you don't have any work experience after that. So in that instance, ignore your masters, because look, if you look here, it's the same points. Ignore the masters. So now you don't have to use the degree after which you have relevant experience. Okay, so someone else had 70 points. I hope that makes sense. Person that asked about the BSc and MSc. So you can see it's the same points. What matters is your job experience after any of those degree. So if you've done now, those that get 70, that got 70, if you add your state, if you're able to get a state nomination, that's 75. That is very good. Just for society transparency, personally, I got the 189 and I got the 189 visa, and I got that on 75 points. So it's possible to get with 75 points. That's what I got in an invitation for 189 visa. But then, so if you're getting 70 now, and if you add your 5 points, if you get a state nomination visa, that's 75. Now, if you add 15, if you get a 491 visa, that is 85 points, which is very good. You have very good chances of getting an invitation. Now, to those that maybe somebody didn't drop a comment, maybe you got below 65. Now, let me tell you how it is possible. It is possible to increase it. Remember, we're very minimal. We assumed proficient English. Well, someone got 75, brilliant. Now imagine if you got 75 and you now have a state nomination, that's 80 points. Your chances are very, very high. Now, we're very minimal. We assumed 10. We assumed proficient English. Now, if you thrive properly and you get a superior English, that's 20. Now imagine what that does to your imagine what that does to your points. Your points goes all the way up. Those that have 70 will now have 80. Those that have 75 will now have 85. So it is possible you can get superior English as well. So I'll go on to the next page now to talk about that English breakdown. So I believe it is clear. If it is, you can give me a thumbs up, or if you want me to go through anything again, just run through it. I'll drop, so let me share the link for the points calculation, which is more automated. You see it here. Now, these links I'm sharing are on the official Gov website. So if you want to calculate your points, you can just click on skilled the visa. Remember, we're talking about the 189, 190, or 491. So if you want to calculate your points officially, you can use this. So you just have to put your age and then English. I won't go into all the details now, but then it automatically calculates it for you at the end, so you're sure. So I'll share the link after this session as well. Just need to go on. Yeah. So yeah, we've done this. We've talked about this. So the process is simple. So all you need. Did I skip? Okay. No, come in. So the process is you get your I don't know why I put IELTS here. I should have put English language test because it's not only IELTS. IELTS is not the only English test that's out there. There's PTE, there's TOEFL, there's IELTS. So it depends on which one you prefer. But I think IELTS is the most popular one. That's why I just put IELTS here. So once you have your IELTS, God, why did I say it again? Once you have your English language test and it meets the minimum requirement, and then once you've submitted your skill assessment and then you got a positive skill assessment, once you have those two, you're good to go. So with those two, you can then join the pool to create an EOI, which is an expression of interest. It's saying, look, oh, I'm interested. I have the skill, I have the English proficiency. I want to come to your country. So you submit the EOI, then it's reviewed from time to time. So once there's an invitation round and you meet the minimum score, you get an ITA, you get an invitation to apply. So they say, oh, look, we've seen your profile. You have very good chances of coming to contribute to our economy. Please apply for the visa. So that with that ITA, you then apply for your visa and then wait. So in terms of cost, yeah, I said I was going to mention cost. Yeah. Someone said, is Duolingo English language acceptable? And now, to answer this question, when I'm talking about the English language test, I'll show you on the official website. So we'll look at all the English tests that are available, and then so we can together we can decipher if the Duolingo is acceptable. So in terms of cost, IELTS, I think, as I said, forgive me, I didn't do my proper research, but I think I'll just try to guess. Last time I spoke to someone in Nigeria, IELTS was around 250. If anybody can correct me, please drop it on the chat. I think IELTS was around 250 or 280 at the moment. I don't know. I think PTE is cheaper. And skill assessment is about 1,030 Australian dollars. That's the cost for that. You know, I saw a Facebook post where an agent asked someone to pay for EUI. I just laughed. That's why at times when I hear agents, it turns me off. You do not pay for to get an EOI. You don't pay for it. It's free. Once you have this, you go on your own. And because of time, I would have shown you how to fill that out. But maybe I can do another session for that. But then you just once you have your IELTS, you have your certificate, you just go on the website and then you fill your EOI. It is free of charge. You do not pay anything for your EOI. So these are the costs. IELTS, your skill assessment. You do not pay also for ITA. Some people are ridiculous. I saw when they were asking someone to pay for EOI and ITA. Like why? So you do not pay for these two, and then the next thing, which is the final step, is your visa. You pay for your visa application. It's about per person is about 2,000. Is it? I don't want to mislead you. Maybe I'll just leave. I'll just leave out that information. You can check on your own. You can check on your own. But then you pay for the visa application fee, and then you pay for health assessment. If you're in Nigeria, you go to IOM. IOM depends on where you are. Abuja is in Atokoro. I'm not sure where the one in Lagos is. So once you do your once you apply for your visa, you then get a link to go for your health assessment, and then it will be reviewed. So let's go to the English language test. Yeah, I have to try as much as possible. So someone asked, what does EOI and ITA means? Maybe you came late. I've tried to explain it before, but I'll still just try and go over it again. So EOI means expression of interest. So once you have your IELTS, the minimum required grade for your English test, and once you have a positive skill assessment, you then take these two, go to the official page, which I do not have right now, as in I didn't open it, but maybe I could drop it on the link how to create an EOI. But you can't create an EOI until you have these two, your IELTS, your English test result, and your positive skill assessment. So the EOI is an expression of interest. You're saying, look, I have the English language requirement. I have a skill as a positive skill assessment in this profession. I want to come to your country. So you then go to the website, the Gov website, and fill the form of an EOI. So you are expressing your interest as, see, I want to come to your country, because you can't just apply to visa for visa like that. So once you submitted that EOI, you're officially on the pool. You are waiting. So when there's what's that word now? When there is a Borakbo, when they are gathering people to come and apply for the visa, There's a word for it. I forgot it. When they are sending out invites, I said, the word just skipped me now. Another word. When they are inviting people to come and apply. So, if, for example, the minimum now it's depending on the score. Each occupation has different score benchmark. For example, here's an example. If you're an accountant, you're in trouble because the score for accountant is very high because there's a lot of competition. But then for like valuer, like during my time, when I got invitation, the benchmark was 70. That was what that was the Michael said chai. Because they love competition. So, but then some let me even mention there's some occupations that I actually enjoy, like pharmacists, med lab scientists, teachers. If you have a friend that is a teacher, tell them to jump on such opportunity because they get a lot of invitation back to back, and their benchmark is quite low because Australia is in need of teachers. So it depends on the benchmark set for your occupation. For example, during my turn, it was 70. And I said, as I said earlier, for the 189 visa, I had 75 points. So when they share the money, they go round. So I got an ITA. I got an invitation to apply that says, oh, see you. We've seen your English test. We've seen that you have a positive assessment, and you have 75 points, which means you cross the borderline of 70. Please come and apply. So that is what is called ITA, invitation to apply. So once you have that invitation to apply, you then apply for the visa. I hope that makes sense to the person that asked that question. I'll go on now to explain the English language requirements. Now, forgive me once again for always hinting on IELTS. That's what I used. Maybe that's why I'm being a bit sentimental towards the English language test. So um, so when you say it's automatic, so would you say it's automatic when you get the ITA? How do you mean automatic? This man, do you mean manual? I don't understand what you mean automatic. So would you say it's automatic when you get the ITA? Automatic to get the visa? Maybe you should rephrase that. I'll come back to that question. Okay, do you mean if it's automatic to get the visa? To be fair, it's not automatic because some people lie on their EOIs. I mean, I don't want to mention nationality, but you might know where I'm talking about. There are some groups where on Facebook where I've seen where people lie on their EOI. I don't know why they do that. So when they lie, they get an invitation to apply, and then now they now go on to submit a visa for using wrong information. So if, for example, let me use another example now. So it's not automatic. For example, your IELTS, maybe your IELTS was IELTS is valid for 3 years. If your IELTS has expired and you get an invitation and then you apply and before you got that invitation, your IELTS has expired, your visa will be denied because it has expired. So you have to make sure everything, even maybe your skill assessment is valid for I think 2 years, 2 or 3 years. I'm sorry, I can't remember that. Either 2 or 3 years, your skill assessment is valid. So you can renew that if it has expired, you can renew it. Or if your IELTS expired, you can write another one. So if the information you supplied is wrong, so it is not automatic. The information has to be correct. Once the information that you submitted for your visa application is correct, then they'll give you your visa. If otherwise, sorry, everything's fine. Your information, yeah. So if your information is correct, you're good to go. So you're good to go. All they need to do is they need to at time they verify like your health. Maybe for example, they need more health because nobody wants someone that will come and be a burden to their health system. So maybe there's something that is wrong with your. Maybe there are some certain conditions that is they see that it will take a lot of money to take care of you. I think there's a benchmark. I can't remember that figure. I don't have that figure in my head. I think either $10,000 per annum or $20,000 per annum. So if your health condition is going to going to take a lot from the government, they might deny the visa. So I don't because I was expecting that question, so I don't have, but I know that is the situation. So I don't have all the figures though. So yeah, we'll go on then. So for the English language test, remember I mentioned. Let me go back. Remember when we were talking about competent, proficient, superior. So now this is what it means. I promise you we're going to talk about that. So um come on. So for you to have for a competent English, remember all your partner. If you have a spouse, all your spouse needs, your partner needs is competent English. But then you, as a main applicant, you need at least proficient English. So now this is what those mean now. So competent English means for IELTS, as an example, I'll bring the others as well. But for IELTS, you need to have a minimum of 6 for each component. So I don't know if this makes sense. Unlike, so when you're not looking at the total, you're looking at the minimum. For proficient, you need a minimum of 7 for each component. Superior, a minimum of eight for each component. So for example, now, let me go to proficient. Let's say you have your IELTS result and then you got 9 in listening, 8 in speaking, 8 in writing, and then in reading, you got 6. That is not qualified as proficient. It is competent. So it is the minimum. So it is the least point you got on each one. Remember, there are 4 components in this English test. So it is so if you get so in that scenario I mentioned, if your highest is 9 and then your minimum you got was 6, they don't send you now competent, you still fall under. So it's just the same thing. So if you get a minimum of 8, then you fall under superior. As I said, it's possible to get to get that 20 points. Remember, if you have superior, that's 20 points. Proficient for you is 10 points. But then all your partner needs is competent. But it's funny, some people's partner might go on and get superior while they get competent. But then, I mean, it's not the English language is not it's not so much of a big deal. Although a lot of people are afraid of this English language test, and I tell people that personally, when I wrote mine, I the only thing I did was go on YouTube and follow someone, and I'm going to recommend him anytime, any day. He didn't pay me. I'm doing free advert for him. His name is Jay. If you go on YouTube and type IELTS by Jay, it's free. I mean, it's surprising why I see people going to pay money for IELTS centers and all. Like any information is just there. Don't confuse yourself. I am 100% recommending Jay. Like 100% type IELTS by Jay. That is all you need. He has all the components. I mean, that guy is thorough. He has the reading component, the speaking component, the listening component, and what's the last one? Listening components. So he has all of them broken down and well detailed. That is all you need. So let me go to the English language requirement on the Gov website and show you. So I believe you can see my screen. So this is everything I'm sharing is from the Gov website. So it's not join. So you can see the English language requirement. Oh yeah, so someone asked about that is again, Duolingo. So it's Duolingo here. It's English language for visa requirements. No, it's not. So there's IELTS, there's PTE, there's CAE, there's OET, and there's TOEFL. So these are the tests that are required. Yeah, so unfortunately, the Duolingo doesn't scale through. So I'll share this link as well if you want. So you could see that I didn't make up those stories. You could see competent English. What is the requirement for IELTS? It is at least 6 for each of the 4 components. At least 6. Remember that. Yeah, I believe that's clear. If that's not clear, please you can draw my attention to it again so I can talk about that. But then I think we just have 25 minutes more to go because this meeting is supposed to end at 10:30. So and then for I'll skip TOEFL. I don't really know much about that. I know PTE and I also know about IELTS. So for PTE, for competent English, which is what your partner should aim at, it's 50, at least 50 for each of the 4 components. So those are the major 5 tests. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that you could use for this visa. So I also go to show you proficient as well. Can you also share the IELTS link? I just searched and I'm seeing IELTS with J. Yeah, that's him. Yeah, same. IELTS with J, E2 IELTS. That's the guy. Great guy. I tell you, that's all you need. That's all you need. So for proficient English, at least 7 for each of the 4 test components. Yeah. And then for PTE, at least 65 for each of the 4 components. Remember, I don't know how else to stretch this because even though I've tried to help some of my friends grow through this process, they're always confusing this requirement. Is it clear? Like, does everybody understand this English, like at least. Because some people say, I got my total was 8.5. So I suppose they proficient now. It's not. It's about the minimum. Once you score anything below 7, you've you've dropped down to competent. Once you score anything below, your lowest is below 8, you've gone down to proficient. And then for superior, I'll just show you quickly. Come on. Away the lads. Yeah. So that's for superior, which is the highest you can have, 20 points. It's a lot to, as in, I mean, it's a lot to get you through. If once you get this score at least 8 in IELTS, I mean, you've done well for yourself, and that boosts your total points a lot. So for the IELTS, you need a minimum of 8 for each component, and for PTE, a minimum of 79 for each component. Yeah, so that's that for the English bit. If you have any question, please draw my ear. Let's get to it. So where are we now for my? Come on, trying to get my slide back on. Where we are. I'll share these links on the chat on Zoom, and I'll also share it on when I share the video on my YouTube page. I'll drop them in the description. We've talked about this. If you remember, I don't know if you joined late, you might have to watch the recording. But remember, initially I said, I'm sorry I had to jump the gun. I've gone through the skill assessment for valuer requirement. I've also gone through it for customer service manager. But quickly, let me just go through it for another occupation, which is, I just had to Google that quickly, which is, remember on the occupation list, we searched for valuer, which was assessed by Vet Access. We searched for, maybe I should just go back to that page if I can find it again. Yeah. So we've searched for customer service manager, which is assessed by Vet Access. We've searched valuer. So now let's see sales and marketing manager. So you can see it's assessed by IML. So, and it's applicable, it's only eligible for the 190 visa and the 491 visa. So I've gone to the website of IML to check the requirements to get a positive assessment as a sales and marketing manager. So I'll bring up, that was the page where I was before. Show you again. So criteria for this. So if you have anybody that has job experience as a sales and marketing manager, tell them they are eligible to apply for the Australian permanent residence. So you can see that there are 2 conditions. Either you hold a bachelor or master's degree in a highly relevant occupation, or if you do not hold one, as long as you have a sales and marketing related role for at least 5 years. So that's it. So these are what you just edit and put on your CV. There's something I forgot to mention. Forgive me. When I was talking about that, the application for the Vet Access. Where's Vet Access? When I was talking about this, part of the requirement that is, forgive me, I didn't talk about this. It is very important. When you're submitting your application for Vet Access to get a positive assessment, what you need to submit, your CV, your BSc certificate, then your transcript, your school will send your transcript to Vet Access. They can send it online, send it to them directly, just so that they can verify. Because I mean, anybody can send them anything. So once you have that, your CV, your certificate, your employment letter should be there. And then now, most importantly, I have to emphasize something. Most importantly is a third-party verification of your employment. What does this mean? A third-party verification of your employment is like a proof to show that yes, you were working in this place. That is not your employer that gave you that confirmation. So, what are the example of this third-party verification that they can rely on? So just give me a minute. Somebody was calling me from this session, so let me just reply to him. Okay, someone is just asking a question about the link. Okay, I'll send a recording to her. So part of the requirements that you need to have a positive assessment is a third party proof that you've been employed in that role that you're claiming you have experience with. So, what are the examples of this now? Either one of these three, either a bank statement that shows your salary for the period you're claiming. For example, now you have 5 years as an estate surveyor and valuer in Mr. Labaja and Co. So if you print your bank statement for those, maybe you can print so that you don't bombard them with that plenty number of bank statements. So you can print for each year. For year one, you print January, April, and maybe November. The point is scattered, maybe three for each year. Now in those bank statements, you can highlight or you can stress them. You can tell them to go and look for it. You can use maybe like a highlighter and highlight where the salary comes in from Mr. Lagbaja and Co. PLC, so that they can see that. Now that's another thing about verification, that they can confirm it from the bank, because most time they actually do go a step further to confirm, and they don't, so that people don't submit fake bank statements. So you can so once you have that bank statement, you just for each year print 3 months from each year and highlight the salary. So now that shows that yes, you were working for that company and you were being paid. Because if you look at this thing, if you look at this now, you see highly relevant paid employment. So you were paid for that period. So that is one of these third party verification. Now, fine, if you don't have a bank statement, maybe you are paid cash, you can upload you can upload a pay slip, but that pay slip is not a third party because it's from your employer, so it's not a third party. So what other options are available? So if you don't have a bank statement, while you were working in that firm, they probably would have paid you. They probably would have been paying tax on your behalf, so you can use your tax certificate as proof. And what if you don't have that certificate? You can use a pension certificate, because while you're there, they probably would have been paying pension on your behalf. So if you can have that, that shows that this company have been paying pension for me for this number of years. So those are the examples of third party verification. So as I said, not all three of them. You need one of either of them. So either you have your bank statement or you have your pension certificate, your pension statement, or your tax statement that shows you've been paid by these people while you were in their employment. So either of those three as a third party verification. I think I've been able to, thank God I remember that and I came back to that. Please, if you have any questions, just drop it on the chat. So he didn't mention proof of fund. No, there's no proof of fund. No, there's someone just asked about proof of fund. Now that's one of the good thing about the process compared to maybe like if you're going to for study route to some other countries, or I think there are some other countries that actually ask for proof of fund. But for Australian permanent residents, the you do not need a proof of fund. Like you do not need a proof of fund. You just apply for your visa and then that's it. So no proof of fund required. That's my battery is low. Where's my slide? So once again, no proof of fund required. I've lost my slide. Give me. But we're almost done. So if you have questions, just keep dropping them on the. Oh yeah, that's my slide. But just bear with me. Let me just get my charger and plug my laptop so it doesn't go off while we're in this session. But if you have any questions, please just drop them on the chat. Give me 1 minute. Okay, yes, I'm back now. So just have to get my charger so it doesn't go off. So okay, so I have the link here for the EOI. I said I'll also share it on the I'll share it on the group chat and also in the video description when I'm uploading the video. So this slide I've mentioned this before. So to submit your EOI, you just need your English results and then your positive assessment. They'll give you a certificate so that yes, you have been found worthy of this occupation. And then with that certificate, you can then upload. You won't even upload them. All you need to do is to say yes, you have it. You have your English test. You have your. It's done your visa application. That's when you submit them. Or for EOI, you're just saying yes, I have this. I have this. So for the 189, that's where your business ends. You just submit your EOI and then you wait. But then you have to go, if you want state nomination or regional nomination, you have to go a step further. Remember, for 190 visa, you get um, you get an extra 5 points. For 491 visa, you get an extra 15 points. Now, I always recommend you can have 1,000 EOI if you have the time. You can have them. So I always recommend for each visa you have a separate EOI, but just remember to keep your the reference number safe. So you can have one application for one EOI for 189 visa. They have another one for 190 and have another one for 491. In fact, you can have what I would say is have one EOI for 189 visa because it's a federal government sponsored visa. Just have that one by the side. Then have there's like 6 regions. Have 6 applications, 6 EOI for 6 different regions, 6 different states for Australia. So you can have one that you select because you have where you select which region you want to, which state you want to go. So you can put Victoria, put New South Wales. So just have one each EOI for different states. So don't worry, you understand the nitty-gritty once you get to that stage. Um, that's about it. So you then have to go to each of those states or region website to apply. It's most of them is free to get apply for nomination. Not most, some of them are free, but some of them they charge money. Like, but it's I think it's maybe 100 and something dollars or 300 and something. I know it's not above. It's not more than 300 Australian dollars to get to apply for those nominations. So you just apply for the nomination, and then once you get it, has an automatic point added to you, and then you'll be invited to apply. You'll be invited to apply for a visa, which is ITA. So so that's about it. The last bit is just when you receive your ITA, good news, and then you apply for your visa, which I think I wasn't so confident of the course. So, but then that's about it. If you have any question, please let me know. So someone said, "Can you send your transcript from West Evaluation?" More West, that's Canada. I'm not, to be fair, I'm not sure, but I'm thinking yes. If the school has sent it to West, they can as well just you can as well just send it from there to them directly. So I'll say yes. I'll say yes. You can send it from there. Yeah. Um, any other question? Let me know. Oh yeah. So this is what the visa looks like. This is a 189 visa. So when you're given a visa, you have indefinite leave to remain. You have 5 years to enter. If you enter after 5 years from the date of grant, they will use scan and pursue you to go back. So, which I think is a long time to plan. So you can plan from when you get it to enter in 5 years' time. So you can enter a year after, you can enter 2 years after, you can enter 3 years after. But then once you enter, you have indefinite leave to go and come back. But then as you also to apply for citizenship, I think you shouldn't have been out of the country in 6 months out of every year. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. So that's about it. Please ask questions if you have questions. And thank you for watching. Thanks for watching. That's how I spell thanks. Sorry, there's no, ignore this. Thanks for watching. And you can connect with me. That's my Nigerian phone number. And that's my email. If you're on LinkedIn, you can look for me, Emmanuel Otabo. And if you on YouTube as well, the same thing, just my name, Emmanuel Otabo. You see me, I was talking a lot about Forex before, but that's not me anymore. I'm a changed man. So please, I'll drop this video on the on the on my page as well. and I'll drop all the link there. I'll also share the links here on the chat. So after the session ends, you can just hang around. Maybe not now because I'm about to dash out. But then I'll share it. You can get notification on the chat group. On the chat, I'll share all the links that I've discussed here. And that's from me to you. Thank you very much for listening. And please, if you have anything, if you have any question, feel free to reach out to me. But then, yeah, time is very important. So everything I've gone through here, I think it's more than fair enough for you to be able to start the process on your own. So you can do it yourself, DIY. You can do it yourself. It's everything I've shared. It gives you, if you need a bit of information, you can reach out to me. But if anybody wants me to hold your hand and go through the process one by one, you can reach out to me. Then we'll talk about finance. You get it? So that's about it. But then you should be fine with everything I've shared here. You can go through it on your own. So thank you very much. And someone just said nice on the top. Thank you very much. Gracias. And how many people joined today? Wow. So I'm speaking to this large number of people, 15. Thank you very much for joining. And I'll share let me just wait. If anybody has any question, please feel free to ask. Where's mine? Let me show my face first before I exit. Yeah, that's me. So thank you very much. Wow, there's a lot of people here today. Yeah, thank God it's still recording. So I'll stop the recording now, and please feel free to ask questions. Thank you very much. You guys are the MVPs. Thank you for joining. I'll share the recording. I mean, the chat is still open. Even maybe after we leave this, after leaving this session, the chat is still open. So if you can ask question anytime, I'll gladly answer. And I hope I've been able to cover it. I hope I've been able to cover everything I need. Yeah, I'll go on and end the recording now. And